Hi, I'm joined now by Mr. Rob Zitz, who is the Senior Vice President and Chief Systems Architect at Leidos. Rob, thank you for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Rob, you have 32 plus years of experience in the information security field, specifically around intelligence community. Can you elaborate a little bit about your experiences in this past decades?
Well, sure. I started back in the late 70s as an intelligence officer supporting counterterrorism operations. And throughout my career, I've been involved in trying to bring various types of data together, integrate them, fuse them, and then get them into the hands of somebody who's going to take action. So it's been a very rewarding career and gave me a lot of exposure to different things.
So how do you think the dynamics of this industry and cybersecurity has actually changed over the last few decades?
Well, if you think about the threat and how the threat has evolved, the threat is now significant. It's on par, I believe, with a physical attack in the United States. A weapon of mass destruction is often talked about as one of the key threats to the United States. If you look at what our intelligence seniors are saying now, they look at a cyber attack, particularly against the critical infrastructure of the United States, is on par with that type of threat. The amount of damage that could be done, the loss of life, loss of property, it's significant.
Right. And you've had experience running some pretty large and significant projects. I looked at your background and you've run projects with over $3 billion. And it does take a lot of leadership efforts to be able to run such significant projects. Can you elaborate a little bit about your leadership style?
Sure. I think that a great leader is someone that people will follow into the unknown. And I think that means that you have to be able to set a vision, explain the need to get to that different place, and then find the best people you can hire, empower them, and then back them. Make sure that any obstacles that are in their way, that you work to remove them and help them to achieve their goals.
That's fantastic, Rob. You've also made a career transition from the public sector to the private sector. And as you look forward in 2015 and beyond, what sort of opportunities exist for public and private sector partnerships in the field of cybersecurity?
Yeah, sure. I was 32 years in the government and spent time in the intelligence community, as you noted, but also in Homeland Security and in federal law enforcement. I had a great career, enjoyed every minute of it. It was important work, and there were great, talented people that I was with. But I would say that in industry now, I work at Leidos, which is a firm that provides national security solutions as well as health and engineering solutions. At Leidos, we continue to support the government, but we also understand that it is a private-public partnership. Right. If you think about cybersecurity as an example of that, cybersecurity, the risk and the threat to the infrastructure of the United States from a cyber attack is significant. 80 to 85% of the critical infrastructure of the United States is held by the private sector. And so the government can help set guidelines and standards and help with information sharing. Certainly a large role for government in cybersecurity, of course, it's obvious, but the government has to work closely with the private sector. Right. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing so much discussion now about information sharing and about a public-private partnership.
Excellent. So as you look at 2015 and beyond, in your opinion, what are the biggest cyber threats out there for the United States?
Yeah, so it's clear that it is clear that identity theft and loss of personal information is an important problem, and one that can damage individuals and individuals' reputations. But when I think about the threat, I think more about loss of intellectual property, loss of finances in the tens of billions of dollars, and again, the impact to critical infrastructure. Right. And if you think about the fact that water and power and transportation, all of those things depend upon the internet, depend upon the interconnectedness of the internet. that is great, but it's also a vulnerability. And so if adversaries attack and exploit those vulnerabilities, there can be quite a bit of damage done.
Right, and that's huge news in the last couple of months and weeks about the Sony attack, and it's completely changed the dimension of the views at the topmost level in the United States about cybersecurity. President Obama has set up a new agency as well. Can you comment a little bit about that?
Right. What the president has been talking about lately is the idea of putting together a coordination cell, if you will, an integration cell within the Director of National Intelligence's office. It will be a small cell. Its job would be to coordinate and integrate the classified information that could help us to understand about a coming attack, to be able to understand that threat vector, and then to be able to work with DHS, Department of Homeland Security, in particular to work with their coordination center and ensure that everyone in the government knows what everyone else knows, and then use that information to share with the private sector. So DHS has the lead in terms of working with the private sector and coordinating with them, sharing information with them, but the intelligence community has the most up-to-date, in-depth information about the classified domain. Right. So that's why they're wanting to put an integrated classified cell together that would then coordinate with DHS.
That's very interesting. And so lots of new jobs are probably going to be opening up in the cybersecurity domain. In your opinion, how can the institutes, the academic institutes in the U.S. actually prepare for future talent to actually meet this demand?
Well, absolutely. Defending against the cybersecurity threat is a team sport. Right. It means that we must have academia, industry, and government working together continuously. And what we have to do, of course, is develop talent, the skills that are required in order to do this kind of work. What we find is universities such as George Washington University and others have got great programs. They have understood the need for developing young minds and focusing them on the idea of cybersecurity as a discipline, as a field, and as a career field. So we turn to academia to help us for our pipeline, as does the government.
So Rob, question for you around the technology developments and where we are with cyber defense today, and where are we going from this point on?
Okay, today we're very much focused on reacting to intrusions and trying to protect against them. I think as we move into the future, we're going to move more into a continuous diagnostic and continuous monitoring, so that we understand as a threat has penetrated our network and we can immediately take action. On average, cyber attacks get into a network or into databases and are left there for months before they're discovered. A lot of damage can be done. We need to know immediately when that's happening.
Right. And this whole question around continuous monitoring, mm-hmm. right? So how do you actually explain that to a layman?
The way I would explain it is, rather than periodically sampling your network or your database to see whether there's anything anomalous within it, something different that shouldn't be there, that using continuous diagnostics and continuous monitoring, you're constantly checking it. And so it's the difference. For example, think about you go to the doctor every 6 months and have your blood pressure checked. Well, with continuous monitoring, you would have a device that perhaps your smartphone is hooked up to, and you're getting a constant feed of what your blood pressure is. And if it's something that's different or dangerous, you can know immediately.
So Rob, last question for you. Do you have any message for our audience, some thoughts that you think for 2015 and beyond, specifically for our students, if you may will, and share some of your advice on what you're looking for them over the next couple of years?
Well, sure. I would say to any students out there who are thinking about what their career should be, could be, that you must take a look at the idea of national security. National security is critically important, and the cyber threat to our national security is large. We need help. We need to have bright young minds come into this field, and we would love to talk to you about this.
Again, thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate this, and on behalf of George Washington University, thank you very much again for taking your precious time and sharing your insights and thoughts with us.
Good to see you.
Same here.